What happens when a Fortune 500 CEO's son kills a man in a drunk driving accident, flees the scene, and then tries to escape the country using his father's corporate jet, a $68 million Gulfstream G650 registered to a publicly traded company? This 29-year-old thinks unlimited wealth and access to private aviation makes him untouchable. But Judge Frank Caprio is about to make one phone call that grounds an entire fleet of 17 corporate jets, crashes the company's stock price by $47 million in a single trading day, and forces a CEO to choose between his son and his shareholders. In the next 20 minutes, you're going to witness the most expensive courtroom decision in Judge Caprio's career and watch a young man learn that when you use billion-dollar corporate assets to flee justice, the consequences don't just destroy you. They destroy everyone. Let us know where you're watching from, because what happens next will prove that real power isn't about how many jets you can access. It's about what happens when a 76-year-old judge decides you've gone too far. November 3rd, 2023. 9:08 a.m. Providence Municipal Court sits under November rain, the kind of cold that seeps into stone buildings and makes everything feel permanent and unforgiving. Inside Courtroom 4, Judge Frank Caprio reviews an unusual case file. Case number 2023 CR 147, State of Rhode Island. Connor James Hastings. Vehicular manslaughter, DUI, fleeing the scene, attempted flight to avoid prosecution, and a note from the prosecutor that makes the bailiff double-check the name. Defendant is son of David Hastings, CEO of TransGlobal Logistics, Fortune 500 ranked 167. Defendant attempted to flee jurisdiction using corporate aircraft, FBI and FAA involved. Connor Hastings enters the courtroom at 9:17 a.m., and everything about him radiates the specific arrogance that comes from never once in 29 years being told no. 6 feet tall, athletic build from a personal trainer he's had since age 14. Wearing a charcoal Brioni suit that costs $7,500, more than most people's monthly salary. His dark hair is cut in that expensive style that's supposed to look effortless, but requires a $300 appointment every 3 weeks. His Patek Philippe Nautilus watch, $180,000, a graduation gift from his father for completing his MBA at Wharton, catches the fluorescent courtroom lights as he checks the time like he has somewhere more important to be. But it's not Connor who makes the courtroom collectively hold its breath. It's the man sitting 3 rows behind him. David Hastings. 62 years old, CEO of TransGlobal Logistics for 17 years, a company with $14 billion in annual revenue, 47,000 employees worldwide, and a fleet of 17 corporate jets that facilitate business operations across 6 continents. His salt and pepper hair is perfectly styled. His navy suit is custom Savile Row. He sits with the rigid posture of someone who's testified before Congress, met with presidents, and answered to a board of directors that controls billions in shareholder value. Next to Connor sits Marcus Pemberton, 67 years old, senior partner at one of New York's most prestigious white shoe law firms. He bills $1,500 per hour and has successfully defended 3 Fortune 100 executives, 2 senators, and 1 federal judge. His presence in Providence Municipal Court, handling what should be a straightforward vehicular manslaughter case, sends a clear message. This defendant has unlimited resources and zero intention of accepting responsibility. 4 weeks ago, on October 6, 2023, at exactly 11:47 p.m., Connor Hastings was behind the wheel of his Lamborghini Urus, a $250,000 SUV that can accelerate from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. He was driving on Route 95 South, approaching the exit for Warwick. Posted speed limit, 55 miles per hour. Connor's actual speed, according to traffic camera data and vehicle computer analysis, 97 miles per hour. Connor was returning from a business dinner in Boston. At least, that's what he told his father's executive assistant when he requested use of one of the company's jets for the trip. In reality, he'd spent the evening at an exclusive Boston nightclub with 3 friends, running up a $14,000 bar tab on his corporate American Express black card. Security footage from the club shows Connor doing shots at 10:30 p.m., 10:47 p.m., and 11:03 p.m. At 11:15 p.m., he left the club, got into his Lamborghini, and started driving back to Rhode Island. At 11:47 p.m., as Connor's Lamborghini approached the Warwick exit at 97 miles per hour, James Patterson was driving his 2015 Honda Accord in the right lane. 73 years old, Vietnam War veteran, retired electrician who'd spent 47 years working for the same company. That night, he was driving home from his weekly volunteer shift at the Providence VA hospital, where he'd spent 3 hours helping other veterans navigate their benefits paperwork. In the passenger seat was Max, his 8-year-old golden retriever and certified therapy dog who accompanied James on his VA visits. Traffic camera footage captures what happens next with horrifying clarity. Timestamp, 11:47:34 p.m. Connor's Lamborghini traveling at 97 miles per hour to change lanes. But at that speed, with a blood alcohol content that would later be estimated at 0.18, more than twice the legal limit, Connor's reaction time is catastrophically impaired. He misjudges the lane change. The Lamborghini clips James Patterson's Honda at the rear quarter panel. The physics are brutal and unforgiving. A 5,000-pound Lamborghini traveling at 97 miles per hour carries approximately 1.4 million foot-pounds of kinetic energy. When that energy transfers to a Honda Accord, the smaller car spins violently. James tries to correct, but there's no correcting physics. His Honda spins twice, crosses the median, and collides head-on with the concrete barrier at 63 miles per hour. The medical examiner's report, which Judge Caprio has read twice, documents that James Patterson died on impact from traumatic brain injury and massive internal bleeding. Max, the golden retriever, was killed instantly. James's wife of 49 years, who was home waiting for him to return, didn't learn about the accident until 2:17 a.m. when state troopers knocked on her door. Connor Hastings's Lamborghini sustained approximately $67,000 in damage. Front end crumpled, airbags deployed, windshield cracked. But Connor himself walked away with minor bruises. And instead of stopping, instead of calling 911, instead of checking if James Patterson was alive, Connor did something that turned vehicular manslaughter into something far worse. He fled. Traffic camera footage shows Connor's Lamborghini, badly damaged but still drivable, exit the highway at the next ramp. He drove 17 miles to his waterfront condo in Providence. At 12:34 a.m., 47 minutes after killing James Patterson, Connor made a phone call that would eventually bring Judge Caprio's courtroom to a complete standstill. He called the head of TransGlobal Logistics Aviation Department and requested immediate access to one of the company's Gulfstream jets. "Family emergency," he told the aviation manager. "Need to get to London tonight. Yes, I know it's late. My father will approve the expense." The aviation manager, who'd been handling Connor's travel requests for 5 years and had learned not to question the CEO's son, began preparing Gulfstream G650, a $68 million aircraft, for immediate departure to London. Flight plan filed, Providence to London Heathrow, departing 3:00 a.m. At 1:47 a.m., Rhode Island State Police identified the registered owner of the damaged Lamborghini through traffic camera footage and paint transfer analysis, Connor James Hastings. They arrived at his condo at 2:03 a.m. Connor wasn't home. His doorman, who knows Connor well, mentioned he'd left 90 minutes earlier with luggage, saying something about an emergency business trip. State police contacted the FBI at 2:11 a.m., flagging Connor as a flight risk attempting to leave the country. The FBI contacted TF Green Airport at 2:19 a.m. Federal agents arrived at the private aviation terminal at 2:27 a.m. Connor Hastings arrived at the airport at 2:41 a.m., driving a different car, a Mercedes S-Class registered to his father. He had 2 suitcases, his passport, and $37,000 in cash. He walked directly to the private terminal where Gulfstream N847TG sat fueled and ready, its engines already spooling up. FBI agents arrested Connor Hastings at 2:43 a.m. as he attempted to board the aircraft. His first words, captured on body camera: "Do you know who my father is? Do you have any idea how much trouble you're in? That's a corporate jet. You can't touch it. I have every right to use company aircraft for business purposes." "This isn't a business trip, Mr. Hastings," the FBI agent said. "You just killed someone and you're trying to flee the country." "I didn't kill anyone. I don't know what you're talking about." "Your Lamborghini was involved in a fatal accident on Route 95 approximately 3 hours ago. Did you not think we'd find you?" Connor's expression shifted from arrogance to panic in less than a second. "I want my attorney. I'm not saying anything without Marcus Pemberton present." The blood draw administered at 3:47 a.m., 4 hours after the accident, showed a BAC of 0.11. Using standard metabolic calculations, forensic toxicologists estimated Connor's BAC at the time of impact was between 0.17 and 0.19, nearly 2.5 times the legal limit. Drunk enough to kill someone and then attempt to flee the country using a $68 million corporate jet like it was a taxi service. Judge Caprio enters the courtroom. Everyone stands except Connor, who's checking his phone until his attorney elbows him sharply. Connor stands slowly, rolling his eyes like this is all a tremendous inconvenience. Judge Caprio takes his seat and reviews the file in silence. The weight in the courtroom is palpable. Finally, he removes his glasses, that signature gesture, and looks directly at Connor. "Mr. Hastings, do you understand the charges against you?" Marcus Pemberton stands before Connor can open his mouth. "Your Honor, Marcus Pemberton for the defense. My client understands the charges, and we are prepared to enter a plea of not guilty to all counts. Furthermore, we're filing motions to suppress the traffic camera evidence on grounds of—" "Mr. Pemberton, I asked your client." Judge Caprio's voice is calm but carries unmistakable authority. "Mr. Hastings, please answer the question." Connor stands, adjusting his $7,500 suit. "Your Honor, I understand that I've been charged with something I didn't do. This entire case is based on circumstantial evidence and assumptions. My attorney has prepared a comprehensive defense showing—" "Mr. Hastings, the question was whether you understand the charges, not whether you agree with them. Do you understand you're charged with vehicular manslaughter, DUI, fleeing the scene of a fatal accident, and attempting to flee prosecution?" "I understand that's what the prosecution is alleging, but allegations aren't facts." Judge Caprio leans forward slightly. "Mr. Hastings, James Patterson is dead. His dog is dead. You attempted to board a corporate jet to London 4 hours after the accident. These aren't allegations. These are documented facts." Connor's jaw tightens. "Your Honor, with respect, correlation isn't causation. Yes, there was an accident. Yes, Mr. Patterson died, which is tragic. But nothing definitively proves I was the driver. The traffic camera footage is grainy. The paint transfer could have come from any number of vehicles. And my decision to travel to London for business purposes has no bearing on—" If you're not subscribed, hit that button right now, because what happens next will show you exactly what happens when someone tries to gaslight a judge who's been on the bench for 35 years and has heard every excuse imaginable. Judge Caprio cuts him off. "Mr. Hastings, your Lamborghini has front-end damage consistent with the accident. Paint transfer matches Mr. Patterson's vehicle. Your vehicle's computer data shows you were traveling at 97 miles per hour. Your blood alcohol 4 hours after the accident was still over the legal limit, and you attempted to flee the country. Which part of that is circumstantial?" Marcus Pemberton interjects. "Your Honor, the vehicle data is subject to interpretation. The blood alcohol test was conducted without proper—" "Mr. Pemberton, your client's blood alcohol was 0.14 hours after the accident. That means at the time of impact, he was catastrophically impaired. There's no interpretation needed." Connor can't stay silent. "Your Honor, I had 2 drinks at dinner, that's all. The blood test is wrong. And as for the London trip, I had a legitimate business meeting scheduled with—" "At 3 in the morning?" Judge Caprio's voice carries a note of incredulity. "You had a legitimate business meeting that required you to leave at 3 a.m., 4 hours after a fatal accident involving your vehicle?" "I didn't know about any accident. I was home. I didn't hear about it until the FBI showed up." "Then why were you fleeing to London?" "I wasn't fleeing. I was traveling." The prosecutor, Sarah Martinez, stands with a tablet. "Your Honor, may I present evidence?" Judge Caprio nods. Sarah plays audio from Connor's phone call to the aviation department, Connor's voice slightly slurred. "I need the Gulfstream ready in 2 hours. London. Yes, I know it's late. Family emergency. My father will cover the cost. No, don't wake him. I'll explain later." Sarah pauses the audio. "Your Honor, that call was placed at 12:34 a.m., 47 minutes after the accident. Mr. Hastings claimed a family emergency, but told the aviation manager not to wake his father. If there was a genuine family emergency, wouldn't he have called his father first?" Connor's face flushes red. "That's taken out of context. Mr. Hastings, Judge Caprio interrupts, you killed a man and tried to flee the country using corporate resources. That's not context. That's the entire story. That's your interpretation. Judge Caprio's expression hardens. Then let's hear from the victim's family. The courtroom doors open. Dorothy Patterson enters, escorted by her daughter. 71 years old, wearing a simple black dress. She's carrying a framed photograph. She walks slowly to the witness area, her daughter helping her into the chair. Mrs. Patterson, Judge Caprio says gently, I know this is difficult. Please, take your time. Dorothy looks at the photograph in her lap, James Patterson in his Vietnam War uniform, young and smiling, with Max as a puppy sitting at his feet. Her voice shakes when she speaks. Your Honor, James and I were married for 49 years. We met in 1974, right after he came back from Vietnam. He was the kindest man I ever knew. Every Wednesday night, he volunteered at the VA hospital, helping other veterans. He'd been doing it for 17 years. That night, her voice breaks. That night, he called me at 11:30. He said he was leaving the hospital, said he'd be home in 20 minutes, asked if I wanted him to pick up ice cream. That was the last time I heard his voice. Connor checks his phone. Judge Caprio notices immediately. Mr. Hastings, put your phone away and look at Mrs. Patterson. Connor slowly pockets the phone, but stares at the floor. Dorothy continues. Max was with him. Max was a therapy dog. He'd go to the VA with James and sit with veterans who had PTSD, who were struggling. That dog saved lives, and Mr. Hastings killed him too. Killed both of them and drove away. Drove away and got on a plane like their lives meant nothing. Mrs. Patterson stands. I'm deeply sorry for your loss, but my client's travel plans have no bearing on... Sit down, Mr. Pemberton. Judge Caprio's voice cuts like steel. Mrs. Patterson, please continue. I don't want revenge, Dorothy says quietly. I just want Mr. Hastings to understand what he took from me. James was 73 years old. We were planning to celebrate our 50th anniversary next year. We had tickets to Hawaii. And now? She looks directly at Connor, who's still staring at the floor. Now I'm planning a funeral instead. The courtroom is absolutely silent. Judge Caprio sets down the file and does something unexpected. He picks up his phone. Bailiff, I need you to connect me with the Federal Aviation Administration's Flight Standards District Office, Regional Administrator. Marcus Pemberton jumps to his feet. Your Honor, what is the relevance of... Mr. Pemberton, your client used a corporate jet registered to a publicly traded Fortune 500 company to attempt to flee prosecution for vehicular manslaughter. That aircraft is evidence. That entire fleet is potentially complicit in obstruction of justice. I'm ensuring no one else uses company resources to evade accountability. The courtroom erupts in murmurs. David Hastings, Connor's father, goes pale. The bailiff connects the call on speakerphone. A professional voice answers. FAA Flight Standards, Regional Administrator Patricia Chen speaking. Administrator Chen, this is Judge Frank Caprio from Providence Municipal Court. I'm presiding over a case involving Connor Hastings, who attempted to use a TransGlobal Logistics corporate aircraft, registration N847TG, to flee prosecution for vehicular manslaughter. I need an immediate safety inspection and temporary grounding order for the entire TransGlobal corporate fleet, pending investigation into whether company aircraft have been systematically misused for personal purposes that may include criminal activity. There's a pause. Judge Caprio, you're requesting we ground 17 corporate jets. I'm requesting that the FAA investigate whether TransGlobal Logistics has adequate controls preventing the misuse of corporate aircraft for illegal purposes. If those controls don't exist, those aircraft represent a flight risk, literally. Understood, Your Honor. I'll initiate an emergency inspection. All TransGlobal aircraft are grounded effective immediately pending compliance review. The courtroom explodes. David Hastings stands, his face ashen. Connor looks like he's going to be sick. Judge Caprio continues. Bailiff, now get me David Hastings, CEO of TransGlobal Logistics, on the phone. Your Honor, I'm right here, David Hastings says from the gallery, his voice strained. Mr. Hastings, please come forward. David walks to the front of the courtroom. He's trembling slightly. This man who's testified before Congress, who's negotiated billion-dollar deals, is trembling in a municipal courtroom. Mr. Hastings, do you know that your son used corporate aircraft to attempt to flee prosecution? I learned about it when the FBI called me at 3 a.m., Your Honor. Do you know how many times your son has used company aircraft for personal purposes? David hesitates. He's authorized to use company resources for business purposes. I trusted him to. Mr. Hastings, your son used a $68 million corporate jet to flee a vehicular manslaughter charge. That's not business. That's obstruction of justice. And I just grounded your entire fleet, 17 jets. How much revenue does your company lose per day when those aircraft aren't operational? David's voice is barely a whisper. Approximately $2.3 million per day. So in the week it will take the FAA to complete their compliance review, you're looking at losses exceeding $16 million, plus the stock price impact, plus the legal liability, plus the federal investigation into corporate asset misuse. How much do you think this is going to cost your shareholders, Mr. Hastings? David closes his eyes. Conservatively, 40 to 50 million in the short term, potentially hundreds of millions if federal charges are filed. And you're willing to absorb that cost to protect your son? The courtroom holds its breath. David Hastings looks at his son for a long moment. Connor's staring at him with desperate eyes, silently pleading. Then David turns back to Judge Caprio. No, Your Honor, I'm not. Connor's face drains of color. Dad, what are you— Connor, be quiet. David's voice is firm now, the CEO voice that commands boardrooms and intimidates competitors. He addresses Judge Caprio directly. Your Honor, I need to make several things clear to this court and to my board of directors, who I know are watching this on the company's legal feed. My son used corporate resources to attempt to evade justice. That is unacceptable. That does not represent the values of TransGlobal Logistics, and I will not use my position or company resources to protect him from the consequences of his actions. Dad, you can't just— I can and I am, Connor. David's voice breaks slightly, but he doesn't stop. You killed someone. You killed a veteran and his therapy dog. You fled the scene. You tried to leave the country. And you did all of it, thinking my money and my company would protect you. I'm telling you now, in open court, that you're wrong. He turns back to Judge Caprio. Your Honor, I'm instructing TransGlobal's legal department to cooperate fully with the FAA investigation. We will implement immediate controls preventing personal use of corporate aircraft. We will provide full documentation of Connor's use of company resources, and I will personally ensure that every dollar he's cost the company in this incident is recovered through legal channels. Furthermore, David continues, his voice steady now, effective immediately, Connor Hastings is terminated from all positions with TransGlobal Logistics. His corporate credit cards are canceled. His access to company resources is revoked. Whatever sentence you determine appropriate, Your Honor, I fully support it. I will not hire attorneys to appeal. I will not leverage corporate influence. My son is on his own. Connor stands up, his voice rising. You're throwing me away to protect the stock price? I'm your son. And James Patterson was Dorothy's husband. David's voice finally breaks. He had a wife who loved him. He had a life. You took that from him because you were drunk and stupid, and you thought you could run away. Well, you can't run anymore, Connor. I'm grounding you the same way Judge Caprio grounded our fleet. You're done. Connor's attorney grabs his arm, trying to sit him down, but Connor shakes him off. This is bullshit. You're choosing shareholders over family. What kind of father does that? The kind who took an oath to act in the best interests of 47,000 employees and millions of shareholders, David says quietly. I love you, Connor, but I can't protect you from this, and I won't. Judge Caprio lets the courtroom settle. Connor is standing, breathing hard, looking between his father and the judge like a cornered animal. David Hastings returns to his seat in the gallery, his face buried in his hands. Mr. Hastings, Judge Caprio says quietly, sit down. Connor sits slowly, his expensive suit suddenly looking like a costume. Judge Caprio reviews his notes, then delivers the sentence with methodical precision. Connor James Hastings, you are hereby convicted of vehicular manslaughter while operating under the influence. You are convicted of leaving the scene of a fatal accident. You are convicted of attempting to flee prosecution. These are not separate incidents. This is a pattern of choices, each one worse than the last. For vehicular manslaughter with aggravating circumstances, you are fined $25,000. Your license is suspended for 10 years, not 5, not 7, 10 full years. You will serve 18 months in jail, not suspended, not work release. 18 consecutive months in a state correctional facility for leaving the scene of a fatal accident, an additional fine of $15,000, an additional 6 months in jail consecutive. For attempting to flee prosecution, an additional fine of $20,000, an additional 6 months in jail consecutive. Total fines $60,000, total jail time 30 months, 2.5 years. You will serve every single day. Additionally, you will pay $250,000 in restitution to Dorothy Patterson for the loss of her husband and the emotional damages you've caused. Upon release, you will complete 2,000 hours of community service working with Veterans Affairs hospitals, the same hospital where James Patterson volunteered. You will help veterans navigate benefits paperwork. You will do the work James Patterson did before you killed him. You will attend victim impact panels for DUI offenders every month for 5 years following your release. And you will write a formal letter of apology to Mrs. Patterson to be reviewed by this court and published in the public record. Marcus Pemberton stands. Your Honor, 30 months for a first offense. This isn't a first offense, Mr. Pemberton. This is 3 offenses, plus the aggravating factor of attempted flight using corporate resources valued at $68 million. Your client didn't just kill someone and run. He tried to use his father's company as an escape vehicle. 30 months is merciful. But, Your Honor, the economic impact on the defendant's future career is nothing compared to the fact that James Patterson doesn't have a future at all. Judge Caprio's voice is steel. The sentence stands. Connor's voice is barely a whisper. My father will fix this. Judge Caprio looks at David Hastings in the gallery. Will you, Mr. Hastings? David shakes his head slowly. No, Your Honor, I won't. Connor buries his face in his hands. For the first time since entering the courtroom, he's crying. Mr. Hastings, Judge Caprio says, not unkindly, you're going to have 2.5 years to think about James Patterson. About the phone call he made to his wife asking if she wanted ice cream, about Max sitting beside him in the car, about the 17 years he spent helping veterans who came home from war broken and scared. You took all of that away because you were drunk and didn't want to face consequences. Maybe somewhere in those 30 months you'll understand what you did. Connor is led away in handcuffs. As he passes his father, he stops. Dad? David looks up, his eyes red. I love you, Connor, but I can't save you from this. Connor is taken into custody. The video of the hearing goes viral within 3 hours. Not because someone leaked it, because David Hastings releases the full audio in a press conference that same afternoon, standing in front of TransGlobal Logistics headquarters with his board of directors behind him. My son used company resources to attempt to evade justice for killing an innocent man, he says, his voice thick with emotion. I cannot lead this company with integrity while protecting someone who did that. Judge Caprio grounded our fleet. He was right to do it. We had inadequate controls. We allowed privilege to override policy. That ends today. The stock market reacts immediately. TransGlobal stock drops 6.7% in 90 minutes, a loss of $47 million in market capitalization. But by the next trading day, it rebounds 4.2% as investors praise David Hastings' handling of the crisis. Headlines read, CEO chooses integrity over son. TransGlobal chief implements aircraft controls after son's arrest, when doing right costs everything. The FAA completes its review in 12 days. TransGlobal Logistics implements new protocols. No corporate aircraft for personal use without board approval. GPS tracking on all flights. Quarterly audits. The company is fined $2.7 million for inadequate oversight, but the fleet is cleared to fly again. Total cost to the company, $34 million in lost revenue, legal fees, and fines. But David Hastings' reputation as a leader who values accountability over nepotism actually strengthens. His approval rating among employees hits 84%, the highest in company history. Connor Hastings serves his 30 months at the Adult Correctional Institution. His cellmate is a 51-year-old man serving 4 years for his 3rd DUI. They barely speak for the first 6 months. Connor spends his time reading, working, in the prison kitchen, and writing letters to his father that David doesn't answer. 14 months into his sentence, Connor receives a letter from Dorothy Patterson. It's short. The Veterans Affairs Administrator told me you've been helping with paperwork for 3 months now. The volunteers say you're good at it. James would have appreciated that. It doesn't change what you did, but it's something. Connor cries for an hour after reading it. It's the first communication he's received from anyone outside prison except his attorney in over a year. 30 months later, Connor is released. He's lost 42 pounds. His expensive suit doesn't fit anymore. His father doesn't come to pick him up. Connor takes a bus to Providence and checks into a halfway house in Federal Hill. His first day out, he reports to the Providence VA hospital to begin his 2,000 hours of community service. The volunteer coordinator shows him to a desk in the benefits office. You'll be helping veterans file disability claims and navigate the VA system. Your predecessor, James Patterson, helped over 300 veterans during his 17 years here. You have some very big shoes to fill. Connor works 6 days a week. The veterans don't know who he is at first, but word spreads. One veteran, a 70-year-old Marine who served with James Patterson in Vietnam, confronts Connor in the parking lot 3 weeks into his service. "You're the one who killed Jimmy." Connor stops walking. "Yes, sir." "Why are you here?" "Because a judge told me I had to be." "That the only reason?" Connor thinks for a long moment. "No, sir. I'm here because Mr. Patterson spent 17 years helping people, and I took that away. I can't bring him back, but I can try to do what he did. It's not the same. It never will be. But it's all I have." The veteran nods slowly. "Jimmy was my friend. Best man at my wedding. Helped me get my disability claim approved when the VA was giving me the runaround. You'll never replace him. But if you're serious about this, I'll help you learn what he knew. Not for you, for the veterans who still need help." Connor learns. He spends 18 months working at the VA, and in that time he helps 73 veterans successfully file claims. He learns their stories. He learns about PTSD and Agent Orange and the bureaucratic nightmares that James Patterson spent years helping navigate. And somewhere in those 18 months, the work stops being a sentence and starts being something else. 2 years after his release, Connor completes his 2,000 hours. The VA volunteer coordinator offers him a paid position. "We need a full-time benefits counselor. Pays $42,000 a year. It's a fraction of what you made at TransGlobal, but you're good at this. The veterans trust you. Are you interested?" Connor takes the job. He lives in a small apartment in Providence. His father sends him a check for $10,000 on his 33rd birthday with a note. "I'm proud of the work you're doing. Love, Dad." They have dinner together for the first time in 3 years. It's awkward. They don't talk about the accident, but it's a start. 4 years after James Patterson's death, Connor attends a ceremony at the Providence VA hospital. They're dedicating a new benefits counseling center, the James Patterson Veterans Resource Center. Dorothy Patterson is there to cut the ribbon. She's 75 now, her hair completely white, but her eyes are clear. She sees Connor in the crowd. She walks over slowly. "Mrs. Patterson," Connor says quietly, "I don't expect you to forgive me. I just wanted to be here to honor your husband." "I know," Dorothy says. "The veterans tell me you've helped over 200 of them in the past 4 years. James helped 317 years. You're on pace to match him." "I'll never match him, ma'am. He was a good man. I'm just trying." Dorothy nods. "James used to say that trying is what matters, not where you start, where you're going." She pauses. "I'll never forget what you took from me. But I see what you're doing now, and I think James would say you're going in the right direction. It's not forgiveness, but it's something." Don't forget to subscribe for more courtroom justice stories where entitled defendants learn that billion-dollar resources mean nothing when you kill someone and try to run. Hit that like button if you believe Judge Caprio's decision to ground an entire corporate fleet was justified. Drop a comment about whether 30 months was too harsh, too lenient, or exactly right for someone who tried to escape justice on a corporate jet. This courtroom taught us that real leadership isn't about protecting your children from consequences. It's about teaching them that some mistakes are so catastrophic that the only path forward is through accountability, not around it. And sometimes, the people who love us most are the ones brave enough to let us fall so we can learn to stand on our own.